In this video, we're going to really dive deep into November 5th, 2024. This 2024 presidential election is definitely the most contested, most contentious, and the closest election that we've had in my lifetime. I thought the 1980 election between President Reagan and President Carter had massive implications. This is a very important election, and we're going to get right into it. Just want to thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful, please hit that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button so you can catch our latest updates as we bring them online. So right into 2024, November 5th, 2024. Here we go, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. poll closings. There are 60 electoral college votes that are up for grabs. It's very key states here. Georgia, being the first state. Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, and New Hampshire. We're going to go to the ones that we can call fairly easy. Indiana, very red. That's going to be an early call. You'll see the networks call that state in those 11 electoral votes fairly quickly. Kentucky will be another easy call. South Carolina, another easy call. Very deep red, dark red. President Trump jumps up to a 28-0 lead. We're going to go over here to Virginia. Virginia is definitely going to go to the Harris side, albeit not by a lot. Typically, this state is competitive. Before President Biden withdrew on July 21st of this year, some polls actually had it a tie. There was a few very outlying polls that had Trump up by 1 or 2 points. In the end, Fairfax County, which is a very blue county, and just home to thousands upon thousands of federal government workers, they will get Vice President Harris across the finish line. She'll take those 13 electoral college votes. New Hampshire, home to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is quite a character, but we also know that New Hampshire is the most liberal state of all 50 states in the United States of America. And at the end of the story here, Vermont's definitely going to be blue. 20-16, we come down to Georgia. At 7 p.m., Georgia will be too close to call. At 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., Georgia will be too close to call. We will definitely come back and look at that state a little bit later in the video, so stick with me. 7:30 poll closings. We've got North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia. Let's go the easy route here. Ohio used to be a bellwether state. Trump took it in 2016. He increased his advantage in 2020. And right now, even the most liberal pollsters are putting him at a double-digit advantage. 17 electoral college votes go to Donald J. Trump. Easy call. West Virginia, one of the most conservative states in the United States. West Virginia will go very dark red. On a side note, West Virginia is playing a huge role in this 2024 presidential and senatorial election. Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, who has held the Senate seat there for years, is retiring. He's also, if you follow the news cycle, Joe Manchin has distanced himself as a Democrat senator, has distanced himself from the Democratic Party, really distanced himself from most of the policies that have been put forward by the Biden administration. But he is retiring. And former Governor Justice, a very popular Republican governor in this state for years, ran in the primary, took that primary by a large amount, and he is leading the polls right now. Some polls have him up as much as 40 points. So West Virginia not only will go to President Trump in the Electoral College vote, giving him 49 through the 7:30 poll closings, but this will also flip a Senate seat, and it could flip the balance of power in the Senate, the Senate this year, from red to blue, possibly controlling the balance of power in the U.S. Senate when it seats the new Congress in January of 2025. We'll have another Senate seat that's tied to this very close presidential election coming up in a little bit. To North Carolina at the 7:30 poll closings. North Carolina will be too close to call. North Carolina will be too close to call going late into the night. We will talk about that later in the video, so stay with me. Let's go to the 8 p.m. poll closings. This is a bank vault full of electoral college votes. 171 electoral college votes up for grabs. Let's get right into it. Let's call the ones that are going to be fairly easy to call. We know that Alabama, very dark red, no question there. Florida had been a bellwether state for several elections. But in 2016, Donald Trump, pollsters had him down 5-6 points in Florida versus Hillary Clinton. Trump pulled that out, and in 2020, he increased his margin. Polls right now, if you look at the current polling data in the state of Florida, Donald Trump, I pulled it up here, I apologize for the delay. He's holding a 4-point lead. It's been this way the whole time. You will go all the way back. We're going to go back here to the middle of August, but even prior to that, during the transition of the Joe Biden pulling out and handing over the reins to Vice President Harris, it wasn't even close. Trump has steadily kept a lead of 4-5 points, so that is going to be an easy win for the president. Not a dark red win, but a win nevertheless. Those 30 electoral college votes will go to Trump, putting him up about 88-16. Kansas is red. Kansas is very, very, very red. Mississippi will go to Trump. Missouri will go to Trump. We're going to go on down to Tennessee. That's as dark red as you can get. Tennessee's 11 electoral college votes will go to Donald J. Trump. We go down to Texas, the great state of Texas, and you know anybody from Texas, they call themselves the United States of Texas. 2016, 2020, the Democrats kind of felt they had made some headway. They were gaining some ground, and even earlier in the spring of this year, some polls showed them at 3-4%. The Hispanic voting electorate in the state of Texas is not as blue as people think. It's actually closer to the middle, maybe than any other highly populated state with a large Hispanic voting base. Florida has a large Hispanic voting base. Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and obviously California, Nevada as well. The Hispanic voting base in Texas is not liberal by any means. They're fairly close to the middle. Texas will go red for Donald Trump. It won't even be close. He'll win that state by between 5 and 8 points. And Trump will also carry Senator Ted Cruz to another term over Colin Allred, who is running for that seat. So let's get up into some Harris territory here. We're going to go to Connecticut. That will be an easy win apologize for that. That'll be an easy win for Vice President Harris. Delaware is going to be a big win for her as well. Maryland, give her 10 electoral college votes. Massachusetts, easy haul for Vice President Harris. She will win that state by 30-plus points, giving her those 11 electoral college votes. District of Columbia is easy take. Rhode Island will go strong for her. Let's go up into New Hampshire. Very interesting. She will more than likely take New Hampshire. There's some polls that had this thing really, really close during the Trump-Biden race. But again, when Biden pulled out, that sort of changed the dynamics of the polls up there and the electorate mindset. And so it could be close. This is going to be 3-4%, but that should easily fall to Harris. And then we get on New Jersey. New Jersey will go to Harris. Very light though. Back in the early part of back in the spring, late spring, early summer, some of the polls actually had this thing as a tie. There was a couple of outlier polls that actually had Trump up by a point or two. But again, with Harris entering the race, that did change the dynamics dramatically. And it should be a safe 14 electoral college votes for the Harris camp, giving her 72 at the moment. I'm going to go up here to Maine. So Maine is interesting as well. District 2, which typically is a conservative, leans a little bit far to the to center of things. That's been a Republican, a loyal Republican voting base for several years. The last few polls that have come out have Vice President Harris with a 5-point lead, and it's been consistent. So for right now, you give her Maine, and you have to give her that, which typically a conservative leaning district, but right now, that is in the Harris corner, 161 to 74. Illinois. Illinois will be very dark blue, but I want everyone watching this video, I want you to pay close attention on the election night, November 5th, 2024. This state has gone blue consistently by 17 points or more. Average is about 17 points, and it's been consistent with that 17-point range. This is going to be interesting. Vice President Harris must win this state in that 17-point range. If Illinois starts to tilt a little bit on November 5th, where you see she pulls this out but by like 12, 13 points, 11, 12, 13 points, it could signal some problems for her further down the Electoral College food chain, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and even North Carolina. It could give you an idea of how those voters that are liberal voters, but they're just to the left of center, how they're voting. You understand, if you were able to look at a voting map of the state of Illinois, this whole area here, it's red. It's light red to dark red. You've got Cook County right here on Lake Michigan, Chicago. That one area right there dictates pretty much the whole election for the whole entire state. Illinois has a lot of rural areas, but Cook County votes so heavy. It's a very highly populated. Chicago, what is the fourth largest populated city in the United States of America? The third largest. And then you also have, that's the fourth largest county by population in the United States of America. And so Cook County is a hotbed for that liberal vote. And it carries Illinois, and it carries those 19 electoral college votes into Vice President Harris's coffers that night. But again, watch and see what happens. If she takes this by 16, 17, she's on a consistent pattern, and she's keeping up with the historical voting pattern of that state. If she tilts to the right of that 17%, I'm talking going down 13, 14%, you may see that trickle down into the trends in these Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and even you get down into North Carolina. So we'll see how that plays out. Closings. We've got a very deep red win, 7 electoral college votes for President Trump. Let's go to Michigan. At the 8 o'clock poll close, Michigan's 15 electoral college votes will be too close to call. Michigan is going to go late into the night of November 5th, 2024. We won't have those numbers until late in the evening. Stick with me towards the end of the video. We're going to dive deep into that. And the same with Pennsylvania. At 8 o'clock, Pennsylvania will be too close to call. We're going to jump to the 9 o'clock hour. Here is another large haul of electoral college votes. It's the second biggest time slot of poll closing on November 5th, 2024 election night. 163 electoral college votes. Let's go to the easy calls. We're going to start with the vice president. Colorado's really trending left. This will not be close. It will be a 10-point plus win for the vice president. We're going to go down here to New Mexico. Now, the dynamics in New Mexico are changing each election cycle. The Hispanic voting base in New Mexico is starting to trend a little bit like you see in Texas. They're starting to move a little bit closer to the center. You have this border issue. It's we've heard about it throughout the whole Biden administration, the 3.5 years that he's been president. It's been an issue. Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, but that issue has now pretty much made every state in America a border state. And New Mexico's Hispanic voting population is starting to move a little bit closer to the center. But during this election in 2024, it won't be enough for President Trump to carry that. Those 5 electoral college votes will go to Vice President Harris, along with state of New York. Very dark. Trump will lose that state, even though he's from New York. No matter who the Republican candidate is, you got to kind of go back to the Bush and the Reagan eras to get a good result there. This will go 25 points for Harris. We're going to go to Arizona. That is going to be too close to call at the 9 o'clock close. Arizona will be too close to call. We're going to go to some favorable election results for President Trump. Iowa, Trump took that in 2016, took it by a larger margin in 2020. Since Vice President Harris has entered the race, the margins have shrunk a little bit. Trump was enjoying a 7, 8, 9% lead there. Some of the most current polls have him only up by about 4 or 5. He'll still win this state by 6 or 7 percentage points when his voters come to roost on election night and come back home. Louisiana's 8 electoral college votes will go for President Trump. We've got a very unique situation in Nebraska, like we had over in Maine. Maine and Nebraska are the only 2 states in the Union that split their electoral college votes. Remember, winner take all in the other 48 states. If you're the candidate and you win the popular vote in these other 48 states, you win the whole electoral college vote haul in that state. Not the situation in Maine or Nebraska. Now, Vice President Harris is doing very well in the 2nd district. That district was drawn. It's around the Omaha area, and it is fairly liberal in their voting, and so she should take that one. President Trump will take the popular vote in Arizona by large margin, and he'll also take District 1 as well. It's 184 to 137 at this time. And then we go to North Dakota and South Dakota. That will go into the Trump column. Definitely Wyoming will go into the Trump column. And then you have Wisconsin. Wisconsin, at the 9 p.m. closing, Wisconsin is going to be too close to call. We go up to Minnesota. Another interesting situation here. Trump actually did fairly well in 2016. Biden won it by a larger margin in 2020. And right now, the polls have been up and down. But Trump in the most recent poll, if I can find that here real quick for you, give me just a second. Here we go. Look at this. If you go way back into, if you go back into the first part of August, the middle of August, Harris had look at this, she had an 8.5% lead. And we're going to see this thing get over 9%. Stay right around that 9%. Here we go. She comes out and still around 9. But it has begun to shrink a little bit. Now, it's not happening fast enough for Trump to really, he's made a little dent in it, but he's not going to make enough ground. It will not be dark blue, but it will be blue, nevertheless, when it comes time to tally those votes up. Minnesota will go for the Vice President of the United States. Arkansas, very deep red state. President Trump will take those 6 electoral college votes and be up 199 to 147. Here we go to 10 o'clock. There are 16 electoral college votes at the 10 o'clock poll closings. This will be fairly easy to call it over here in Idaho. Those 4 electoral college votes would go to Trump by a large margin. That state's going to go 65-35 easily. Montana's 4 votes will also go to President Trump, and the 6 electoral college votes in Utah will go to President Trump. We get to Nevada. At the 10 o'clock closing, Nevada is going to be too close to call. This state is a swing state. This is really, really amazing here. Um, we all thought that Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania would really be where all the action was going to be late into the evening. But we see what's taking place here. We've got Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and now Nevada. We've got a large group of swing states that could determine who the 47th President of the United States of America is going to be. Right now at 10 o'clock, Nevada is too close to call. We go to the 11 o'clock poll closings. These are going to be very easy. Washington, very dark blue. California, very dark blue. Oregon, not as dark blue as Vice President Harris would like it to be. The polls out here are showing it consistently. It's not a 10 or 12 points. Trump is within 5 to 7 points in Oregon. I'm not sure what those dynamics are related to. I'd like to see some more in-depth polling done and some research and some data that we could see. But Oregon, Biden was taking that state pretty heavily, double digit, since Vice President Harris has jumped into the race. Trump is cut into that lead by half. So very interesting. Right now we've got Vice President Harris up 221 to 213. We're going to make some easy calls here at the midnight closing. We're going to go to Alaska, which the only poll that we have in Alaska shows Trump up by 5. So that's going to be a light red. And then we have Hawaii. That's going to be an easy win for Vice President Harris. That's going to be a 65 to 35 margin for her. And those 4 electoral college votes will go to Vice President Harris. It's 225 to 216. East Coast, we're late. We're 11 o'clock East Coast, midnight East Coast. These numbers are starting to come a little bit more clear. Let's go to Wisconsin. Let's take a look at Wisconsin. Apologize for this. Let me just find it here real quick. So if you look at the trend lines here, Harris has just continually kept a lead in Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin has the highest percentage of white non-4-year degreed voters, registered voters. You see Harris here has maintained that 2.5 point lead, 2.73 points. 56% of the registered voters, voting electorate in Wisconsin are 4-year non-degreed white voters. Why is that important? We keep hearing about that. It is extremely important because this was the voting base. This was the electorate. This was the core Trump supporters in 2016 that put him over the threshold. Very close again in 2020. As I see it right now, I think Harris still maintains this lead. I think it's going to be just a tough task for President Trump. And I think Harris will nip Wisconsin, but I think it's going to be less than 25,000 votes. Puts her up at 235 to 216. We're going to hear to North Carolina. Excuse me, did not mean to do that. North Carolina. Let's take a look at North Carolina. North Carolina has been loyal to the Trump cause in the 2016 and 2020 presidential election. You know, Trump had a big lead before the transition from Biden over to Harris. And here again, Harris has jumped. You know, she's been able to kind of chip away, and Trump gets it back, and he's moving, got his strength. Here comes Harris again. I think when the dust settles, the Trump voters, they come home to roost. North Carolina in 2016 and 2020 were loyal to Trump. They're going to be loyal to him again. That is 16 electoral college votes that will go by a small margin, but it will go to President Donald J. Trump. Here we're at 235 to 232. Let's go on here to Georgia. Georgia is another very close state. All the polls have Trump getting his ground back again in Georgia. Harris is the Democratic National Convention. She didn't get a bump. Her message has not resonated. And here's the deal. The black male voters in Georgia have been moving in droves towards the Trump camp. Trump's message resonates with young black males, It resonates with the middle-aged black male group. Here again, these are voters that the Democrats have counted on for decades but don't deliver. Trump had the lowest unemployment rate during his administration of the black community in this nation's history. And they're going to resonate with that. That's a message that resonates with them. Trump was very involved in giving money to historical black college universities. These are things that have been overlooked. Trump is going to take Georgia. Trump will take Georgia. It'll be a small margin. I think it's less than 100,000, but he takes Georgia, which gives him a 248 to 235 lead. We got Georgia in the bank, Wisconsin in the bank, North Carolina is in the bank. Now we've got to move to Pennsylvania and Michigan. But guess what? It's too close to call. Late hours, too close to call. So we're going to go back over to the West Coast. Let's take a look at Arizona. Arizona. Trump has been able to maintain a fairly balanced lead over here. He was up by 2.5 points in the early part of Vice President Harris's campaign. And then she sort of chipped into it a little bit. But his base is starting to come back to roost. He's got nearly a 1% lead. Arizona also has that undercounted, underrepresented Trump base. And Arizona, at the end of the story, is going to go red. It just can't get away from it. It'll be a light red. I think less than 150,000 votes. But Trump will win North Carolina. And once the dust settles in Nevada, here again, this state is awfully very close again. Trump had a lead through most of the spring and the early summer. Harris got into the race, and she sort of challenged him. She got a little bump up, and she came over here towards the end or during the weekend. Some of the polls that have come out, it's neck and neck. But once you take the casino workers into play, once you factor in the blue-collar workers in Nevada, Trump is going to take that state as well. Less than 125,000 votes. He's at 265 to 235. He's very close. He's very, very close. Let's go to Michigan. Now we're in the early hours of November 6, 2024. The votes are coming in. You've got the rural areas of Michigan, the rural areas of Pennsylvania that are starting to roll in. Trump had a lead again here when Biden was in the race. Harris chipped into it. She's bumped that thing up to about 3.5, almost 4. But Trump is starting to close the gap. When the dust settles, when you get that rural area of Michigan that comes into play, when you get the auto workers who feel threatened by the Biden administration's policies towards their industry, and you're going to have that Arab population in Michigan that is very upset at the Biden administration's policies as it pertains to the Israeli Hamas war that's taking place right now. I'm going to tell you, 300,000 Arab voters in Dearborn, Michigan, they better all turn out, and they better all vote blue. Because if they don't all turn out and they don't all vote, it's going to be a problem. Wee hours in the morning, November 6, 2024. Michigan goes for President Trump. Pennsylvania, this is going to be a nail biter. Let's go to Pennsylvania right now. President Trump had a little bump between him and Biden. It was a very close, very, very close. Harris has come in and she's maintained this 1.5, 2-point lead. But now we're starting to see the Trump voters come home. We're down to 0.5 point. You've got the rural areas. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are going to give Vice President Harris a very large lead. But once you get into these rural areas, way out here, and those votes don't come in till midnight Pennsylvania time, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. When those votes start coming in, and the 45% of the registered voters that are white, non-4-year degreed, undercounted, underrepresented in 2016 and again in 2020, underrepresented voter base that voted heavy for Trump in 16 and 20 in 2024 is going to do the same. Trump will win this 301 electoral college votes to 237 for Vice President Harris. Donald J. Trump will be the 47th President of the United States of America. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button and also subscribe. I really need your support. You'll get immediate notification when I post a new video.